I'll sleep when I'm dead and I just need to push. That does not work. You're going to die way faster if you're not sleeping. You can get away with a lot of bad habits when you're in your teens and 20s, but as you get older, those things catch up to you. So you need to eat. Like, eating is good. You also need to have periods where you don't eat.
Your body's incredible at what it can handle and what it can do. It's like if you prioritize your health, you're going to be in it for the long run.
Welcome to Dealer Out of Office. We're your hosts. I'm Frank Zambo.
I'm Jake Burkle, and we are here to talk to you about dealers' interests outside of the office.
Now watch this drive.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Dealer Out of Office. As always, I'm your host, Jacob Burkle, alongside my good buddy, Frank Zambo. We had a hell of a guest in Ali Donna last week, and I think because we could have made that another 2-3 hours because of how invested we were in our own health, we want to keep that train rolling. So
I think it's that for everyone right now. It's like, how do we get in the best shape possible for those summer months, especially some of the guys up here in Michigan?
It's already been quitting time, or what's the quitting week 2 weeks after?
You're right.
So we were already kind of past that, but for the people that are still holding on strong and want maybe an extra push or a little more knowledge, who are getting into the fitness game, we have an incredible guest on.
We saw him with the shirt off. That was the sun for we saw. We're like, all right, what is he doing?
The dude's yoked.
What is he doing so we can get to that point? Give us his 2 cents how to get there.
Absolutely right. So with that said, welcome to Dealer Out of Office, Brett Billings. What's going on, buddy?
Hey guys, I'm good. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to chat about whatever you want to talk about. But
what's working for you is what
we're gonna get off the rails a little bit, but we're gonna try and keep it on for right now. So before we dive deep into just again why you're yoked and what we can all do to get there, give us a little background, where you're at, what you do, at least for the professional aspect, and then of course we'll dive into the other stuff.
Yeah, sure. So I'm a family nurse practitioner. I've been in practice now for about 6 going on 7 years, I think. And then about 2 years ago, I opened my own practice. I'm here in Southern Oregon, in Medford, and I have 2 different practices I run. One is a family practice, so I still see men, women, children of all ages, and then I have a men's health clinic, and that's where it's really my goal of that is to just help each patient optimize their health, and really focus on men 30 to 60 and trying to get everything optimized as well as we can.
Well, that perfect, because that's what we want, because we're in that range. So I think one of my first questions is, like, everyone's busy, right? A lot of the people that listen to this podcast, they're GMs, they're high up in the dealership life and the automotive life, or just busy in general. So you got 3 kids, you have 2 practices. What's like the non-negotiable for you in terms of fitness? Like, is it 3 times a week, 5 times a week, or just, hey, you got to get your steps in? What is it that you find that is just like consistent in all of that?
Yeah. That's a great question. I really try to prioritize some kind of exercise, like 5 to 6 days a week. And generally I'll do like some resistance training 3 to 4 times a week that I try to like have consistent throughout my life, regardless of time. And then I'll have various types of like longer distance endurance training or cardio type stuff that I'll do. And that kind of ebbs and flows a little bit more depending on how much time I have in my schedule. So there, seasons where I may only do like 1 or 2 times a week for 45 minutes, or times when I have more availability and I'll train for some event or do something where I can really spend more time on it. But I really try to have, I would say, 45 minutes devoted to exercise every day, 5 to 6 days a week that I pin in there. That is time that can't be taken over by something else.
So I love it. I think everyone knows too. It's like you got to work out to get big. Someone as busy as you. How old are you again, Brett?
Right now I'm 35.
35. Kids?
Yeah. My kids are 5, 5, and 3.
Okay. And you got 2 businesses, 2 clinics. Me, I have kids 11, 9, 8, 5, all boys, all in sports. Got a job, 8 to 5. Then I got kids sports afterwards. Then all of a sudden you like to golf on the weekend, or, golf on the weekdays too. You got golf league, you got dart league, you got whatever it is. Balancing it all, when do you find the time to fit it in, and when do you find the best time to get that 45 minute to an hour workout in?
Yeah, for me, it only works if I do it early in the morning. I inevitably there's more things that need to be get done as the day progresses, and if I wait till like midday or afternoon or in the evening, even it never happens. And I'm also the kind of person that after like 7 or 8 p.m. I'm toast, man. I do not have the energy to like go do a workout. So usually I am up around 4 every day, and I'll try to do my workout and get all of that done by like 5, sometimes a little later. But that time is almost guaranteed to be available because no one else is awake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So again, 2 boys for me, 2.5 and 6 months. So I'm a 4:30 in the morning kind of guy, and it took me, the better part of a month to like just, telling yourself you're not don't be a lazy, piece of what to get out of the door, right? What's kind of your mentality other than like, hey, this is a non-negotiable for people that are trying to get into it? Is it, don't put all your eggs in one basket too soon because you're going to get burned out? I see that a lot. Everyone goes, full bore 4 a.m. for a week, and then it's like, no, my body just can't catch up, right? So for someone that's, hey, I'm very busy, 7 to 7, and they only have that morning time, what's a little hack or a little trick that you've used, to kind of get into that routine or rhythm? Or is it just that, like, just get out of bed and start moving?
I mean, I think it's probably both. Like, there has to be some level of commitment because there's a lot of mornings when I would much rather sleep or not work out. But I do think that one thing that's really helpful is committing to a bedtime. You have to like decide to go to sleep and within a reasonable hour. So I don't really ever stay up past 10 o'clock. I mean, there's exceptions for, I don't know, some celebration or event. But on your day-to-day routine, you really have to decide, like, do you have to commit a little bit to sleeping a little earlier if your time, if you need to wake up at 4:30 or 5 just to get going, then you probably need to go to bed by 9 or 10 to still get decent sleep and feel okay to exercise. So I think committing to a good sleep pattern is critical. And then it just takes time to develop that habit. Your brain will adjust. You'll kind of get used to it, but you just have to set your wake up time and make it that morning, or make it that time every morning over and over and over. And eventually your body kind of adapts to it and it feels a little bit more normal. It's still going to be hard at times, but I think if you can get a good routine of bedtime and wake time, it helps a lot.
Was it 60 days to become a routine or something like that?
Well, I think too is like the Glenn Lundy, don't hit the snooze button, like set that snooze and see how long. I've actually, like the Michael Jordan, you quit once, it becomes a habit. And it's like, all right, don't quit on that snooze. Cause like at the end of last year, I was hitting that snooze 3 times, 4 times. All of a sudden that 5 morning wake up turned into 5:45. So far this year, I've been good. I don't want to be the first to stop. And then, once you start it, because then it's easier to quit, to hit the snooze the second time. But then I find out too, I have a similar schedule. I try to get in bed. You try to get in bed by 10 o'clock, but then I got the kids and then they're up at 9:30. And I try to get bed at 9, but then, you never know when the old lady might try to get, what I mean? You're just, is it my night? You never know. And then you have to stay a little longer, and then that turns into a 5. You only get 5 hours of sleep, 6 hours of sleep. So it's tough balancing it as a 35 to 40-year-old guy trying to do it all and get those early morning workouts. I get it. There's a lot of excuses that creep in,
but it's a routine too, right? Like if you're doom scrolling, if you're watching TV, like I think that's a big part of it too, is getting in a routine. Like, hey, read a book, like do something to turn your brain off a little bit. To just scroll and then try and go to bed, you're just wired and it's never going to work out for you. So having
you do have to get that. But my point though too, not just like that kind of time, but like time with your significant other, because when
that's true,
you're at work all day and then you're driving the kids to sports and then your kids are in bed by 9 o'clock, and then it's like, then I want to be in bed by 9 o'clock. It's like, hey Jessica, I didn't even see you all week. It's like, so you got to find that perfect balance of everything. And then when do you find time to go hit tee times at night or dart league.
Yeah.
It's a lot to balance, no question.
Yeah, I think it's good too to like figure out your top priorities in life, like your family, time with your wife, exercise, whatever they are, and kind of narrow it down to, I don't know, a handful of things that you decide like, I won't compromise on these no matter what. And I will decide whether or not I'm going to commit to doing some activity or even let my kids commit to something based on whether or not I can maintain those things. Like, it's for me, it's critical that I get to be home by 4 or 5 every day because I want to spend time with my kids and I don't want to get caught in this rut where I start working more and more and more. And then I never see my kids. And I also want to have time with my wife and I want to have time to exercise. So there are certain things we say no to. I think especially in our culture, there's a lot of push to just do more and more and more, especially for men. And there's probably some value in doing less sometimes if it allows you to prioritize what really matters in your life.
So while staying on kind of the sleep topic, in your professional experience, I know some guys are very different. And Frank brought up Glenn Lundy, who's a consistent like 4 hours of sleep guy, but he's as he's deep into his REM, he's deep into good sleep. So how much sleep is truly needed for recovery? Both physically, mentally. In your opinion, should everyone be getting?
Yeah. The typical number that's thrown around, especially in the like medical books and stuff, is like 8 hours is kind of the magic. Usually between a 6 to 8 hour window of time in bed is like sufficient to get enough sleep, but it totally depends on your quality of sleep. So you can, be in bed for 10 hours and still have really poor sleep because you didn't get enough of those deep and REM cycles. And you can be an hour in bed for, in theory, you could be in bed for 4 or 5 hours and get everything you needed if your brain was able to just like basically stay in deep and REM sleep. So there are some just fortunate few who can get along with 4 to 5 hours because there's a component of that that's just out of your control. Most of us don't have that ability. And so you should probably expect that you're going to need to be in bed for 7 hours on like the short side to actually get sufficient like quality sleep. But there's a lot of good sleep tracking technology now that you can get on like a Garmin watch or those the Whoop band or the Oura rings, and it's super helpful to actually start tracking and look at like, okay, what are my normal habits? And then you can see the way things like caffeine late in the day affect you, or a meal late at night, or there's so many things that can influence your sleep a little bit. And it's really helpful to be able to look back and say, oh yeah, I should probably avoid that because that really disrupted me.
Sure.
Brett, for the folks coming into your clinic, your men's health clinic. So last week we talked to Allie. She looked at our blood work because she has a great sense of both sexes, but it sure was a lot of female. Her clinic was more female oriented. Yours being more male oriented. Our listeners are a lot in that like 35, 30 to 55 range, 60 range, let's say. What are most gentlemen in that age range coming in to see you about right now?
A lot of the same stuff we're talking about, just sort of a general feeling of fatigue or lack of energy, low libido. They feel like they're starting to notice that they don't feel like they did when they were in their 20s. And it's usually kind of general type symptoms, but longer recovery times from exercise. Like, man, I'm sore now for 4 or 5 days, or, a difficulty building muscle or maintaining strength, just kind of seeing some of what would be normal for age, but like at a significant pace. And I think the most common would just be like, I just feel tired or physically like I don't have energy.
Sure. So as we kind of get into it, we're kind of wrapping up sleep, but we're going to talk obviously nutrition, we're going to talk supplementation, we're going to talk exercise. Where do you rank those in terms of like most important to like least important, or are we tying? Like, you got sleep, nutrition, exercise, supplementation. I mean, some people I've heard argue sleep's number one. I've heard some people argue nutrition's number one, right? So in your opinion, what should our listeners be prioritizing and kind of chip away at?
Yeah. I would be hard to pick probably the number one because
they're all important. I understand.
They're
Yeah.
all essential. I would say something that I feel like has been a recent development or discovery for me is sleep being the most important for me. And I think this is probably true for you guys, but any like ambitious young male is usually going to try to just push, push, push. And I think in our time when growing up, the general mantra was like, I'll sleep when I'm dead and I just need to push. And so as I've gotten older, I've realized like that does not work. You're going to die way faster if you're not sleeping, and you just can't function. I mean, you can get away with a lot of bad habits when you're in your teens and 20s, but as you get older, those things catch up to you. So I really have put a priority on sleep in the last probably 2 years, and that's made a big impact for me. But I think exercise is equally is critical. And I like to sometimes tell my patients or broaden the term from exercise to like movement. It's not just about like going to the gym and lifting weights, which is I think what most people think about when they think exercise. It's really about just a lifestyle where you're physically active, where you're out, hiking, you're working in your yard, you do some weightlifting, you do some running, but you can do so many things. I think just making an active lifestyle is really critical. And then those are top two for sure. Nutrition is critical, but I would put exercise and sleep.
And it's funny how they go, Brett, like hand in hand, because I did start tracking my sleep over the last 18 months, I would say. And I would say I played 9 years in the NFL. I didn't drink a whole lot. A lot of that time was spent training. Now that I'm out of the NFL, I thought maybe I would start drinking alcohol more, like now I'm just living for me now. I'm not living to go perform on Sundays. But now when I see the effects alcohol has on my sleep, where everyone maybe thought like, oh, I'll go crush a bourbon before bed and I sleep like a rock, or have a glass of wine, I sleep like a rock. If I did that, now I see, even though maybe I can sleep 8 hours, but my sleep score is like through the floor, it's terrible. So my body is obviously not reacting well to alcohol. I've come to find that out. And I just now, maybe it's mental, maybe it's whatever. I don't handle alcohol very well. So I probably drink less alcohol now than I did even in my senior year of high school, just because I know it's bad for me. Now, every once in a while, mess around with the occasional like gummy or whatever, just to kind of have some type of something, but even that, even last night I took a gummy and I didn't sleep great. My sleep score wasn't great. Whereas like the last couple of days before that, I didn't do anything and had great sleep scores. So yeah.
You gotta have some give and take.
Yeah, there's give and take. Yeah. Some balance.
You brought up a funny point, and I kind of glad you did, because we see in our, in the industry, like everyone, 4 a.m. wake up, splitting everything, you gotta, 4 o'clock, you sleep at noon and you gotta grind, where it's just like, yeah, but what is that gonna do for you in the long run? I think there's been too much of a, I don't want to call it pride thing. I don't know what it is, an ego thing of trying to work harder than the next guy. Where it's like, if you prioritize your health, you're going to be in it for the long run. You're going to be able to, what do you always say to me? It's not the hours you.
It's not how many hours you put in. It's what you put into your hours.
There you are. So
that's why I'm only here a couple hours a day, Brett. It's because of what I put in my hours.
Frank doesn't know what the office looks like after 3:30.
No, yeah, I did say earlier in the thing I was 8 to 5, but it's 8 to 3:30.
Switching gears, something that Frank and I are both big on is also nutrition. We talk about fasting and autophagy. We talk about
whole foods,
and that's kind of where, like, I got 2 kids, and that's a big thing in my house is like, it's whole foods, right? If you can pronounce it, you can eat it, right? Looking at ingredients, knowing, hey, an apple is, an apple, right? Vegetables, meats, sourcing correctly from, places, the food is
sourced from,
right? Like, I bought a half a cow, right? I know exactly where that cow was from. I know exactly what they put into it. So stuff like that. For people that are constantly moving, I mean, you said nutrition is equally as important and it's up there. What are you doing? What's kind of your,
what's worked for you? What diet?
Every 2 hours kind of guy? Are you doing intermittent fasting? What do you find to be productive?
Yeah. Well, I will say that it does depend on the person. There are different phenotypes. Your body will process like carbohydrates, for example, differently. Some people like metabolize those so quickly and they're able to tolerate a lot of carbs and look great and have low body fat. Some people, their body just soaks those up and turns them into fat so fast. So there is some variation amongst just sort of your genetics, but I think generally speaking, the key things are like having some awareness of your macronutrient intake is just so helpful. You don't have to count calories, but it's a good idea to have a general idea of like how many calories do I even eat in a day? Because I think most people will basically have the assumption that their diet's pretty good. They're just thinking back and they're comparing themselves to a typical American, which has a terrible diet. So it's really helpful to like track some of those things for a while. Like, what do I normally eat, and what does that translate to? How many grams of protein am I getting? Fat? How many calories? I do eat typically every 3 to 4 hours, so I have a routine since I've been on since in high school, and just developed that habit when I was an athlete playing sports all the time, which is a pretty common when you're just hungry all the time. So you just eat like anytime you get a chance. But I've been able to kind of maintain that, and it works for me. So I have like small, high protein meals every probably, I don't know, 4 hours or so. And that it varies. Sometimes I do just like drink a protein shake or eat a protein bar, but I really do try to eat whole foods, actual, meat, vegetables, those sorts of things. Having kids has dramatically thrown just a wrench in the works for me,
Chicken
and that
nugget,
can be a
boom.
huge challenge.
French fry, boom.
Yeah, I eat the worst I've ever eaten in my life after having kids, and that's a challenge to like overcome. But yeah, I try to stick to. I mean, we can get into details if you want, but the actual grams and percentages, and we can go down the trail of fasting too. But generally speaking, just having awareness of your macronutrients and kind of monitoring that.
Yeah, I mean, I would like to get into it because I think nutrition is something that you can. Nutrition, in my opinion, is something that you can have the most control over, right? You know what you're putting in your body. You can, you can say yes, you can say no. Time, sleep, like
I
kids,
think
exercise, that's going to be a
all
problem.
of these are stuff that we have control over. And if it was easy, everyone would be looking like Brett, right?
Sure.
It takes discipline. And then Allie got to a point when you've put in the work and it still isn't working for you. Now you can get into some supplementation to help aid that or speed that up, right? Once you've proven that, hey, I've tried everything, it's just not working for me. And you brought up a good point about like phenotypes. Hopefully I said that right. Is again, not to keep dropping the NFL card. I played in locker rooms with folks from all over the country, all different walks of life, different nationalities, backgrounds. There's a true thing about some people process carbohydrates, like it could be Kool-Aid or a bag of Skittles, differently than I break down a bag of Skittles, and almost like it was their protein shake. I watch, and again, it could be African American, whatever it is, but one of my Alan Bailey, the guy was just jacked. Not that he had a poor diet, but I would say my diet was more around meat because that's what I needed. That was my edge to stay in the league, whereas Alan was just like an absolute freak, big, like a 310-pound version just of Brett just delts and just arms. And again, he could just eat kind of whatever he wanted and just built muscle. So I think some of those food sensitivity tests too, to find out what your phenotype or what your body can process the easiest to stay healthy, to generate muscle, whatever that is important to find out as well.
So in terms, I know we kind of talked quickly about like fasting, and that's something that I've kind of gotten into with autophagy and, did a 72-hour fast, stuff like that. I hear more and more about autophagy, right? As you kind of go through eating cancerous cell, stuff like that. But to actually track it is very difficult because you got to get it on a cellular level. Fasting, we're saying thumbs up, thumbs down. How often should you do it? Does it really make a difference? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I think it's helpful to define fasting a little bit because it varies a lot in people's heads what fasting means for them. But generally, depending on what you ate, your body's going to be in a fasted state probably 4 to 8 hours after a meal, and it's essentially processed everything you've eaten. That spike in blood sugar has come back down to normal, and so you can enter a fasted state, relatively quickly after a meal. And then how long you sustain that is generally what we would consider fasting, like how long you've gone before you've eaten. So overnight, you typically, you're fasting. It's, what we call breakfast. You're breaking that fast of, no food there. So
Wait, time
your
out.
body.
Is that's why you call it like I'm 31 years old. That just
hit you?
That just hit me.
You're breaking the fast.
Yeah, man.
Holy hell.
Gotta break the fast.
God, I feel like an idiot.
Gosh, you learned something today.
So, your body needs to be in periods of feeding and of fasting. And so you need both of those, similar to like you need sleep and exercise. You can't just exercise continuously without sleeping, without collapsing, and you're not going to just sleep continuously. You need to eat. Like, eating is good. You also need to have periods where you don't eat. There is so much debate, even amongst the highest level of specialists in this world, on like, what is the optimal amount of like time between meals, and should you eat 2 in a day or 1, or should you eat every 3 hours? And I don't know that we'll ever come up with a very clear answer. I think there's some components of it are just, every human body is a little different, and so there may be people that do really well with certain types of eating schedules versus someone else. But I think generally speaking, doing a basically intermittent fasting where you go 10 to 16 hours without eating, or a better way of looking at it is having a strict feeding window when you're eating. I eat all my food between 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. is really helpful, because it gives your body ample time of no food to like really process and digest that, and then all sorts of cellular things change and transition when you're not eating. And so that is probably the ideal, at least that's the consensus right now, is doing like a feeding window of about 8 hours, maybe up to 10 in a day. And then you don't eat generally 1 to 2 hours before you wake up. And then you try to avoid eating anything about 3 hours prior to bedtime.
And is that just, I mean, you talk about people are like, oh, intermittent fasting has helped me lose so much weight. Well, it's really still calories in, calories out, right? You're just limiting that window. So at the end of the day, you just can't consume the
bag of chips at the end of the night,
exactly
the cereal before bed.
I mean, your chips and guac.
Yeah,
is,
I don't know that there's like significant magic effects of intermittent fasting for losing weight. I think it's that it really helps people control their calorie intake.
Right.
And then they're not also just continuously having spikes in their blood glucose because they eat, at 10 p.m. and at 5 a.m. and again and again and again. So, but yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of claims about the power of fasting, and some of it may be true. I just think the general idea is that you should have deliberate periods where you do not eat food, and it shouldn't be just when you're sleeping.
All right. My last one's autophagy. I'm sorry.
Go for it.
I'm very into this one. You read different things, right? There's different tests. It's like, hey, your body goes into autophagy after 24 hours, and you read something else at 36, something else 48, and then you see like 72, right? That was awful, trying to do 72, right? Like, but there was a truth to it that you got after the 48 hours. Like, okay, like I'm okay, right? I fought through some BS, and I'm okay. Like, your body's incredible at what it can handle and what it can do.
Is that another word for saying getting into ketosis, right? Would that be
I don't know.
Autophagy? Basically autophagy, isn't that when you start to eat your own, like all that?
Yeah.
Which ketosis is when it starts eating your own body, your own stored fat for fuel, correct?
So is that something that you're like, hey, if you're a healthy, 30 to whatever year old male, like, yeah, try it, see what happens, like be a guinea pig, or you're like, no, there's really, there's no science behind it?
Yeah, I mean, there are definitely some things that occur in the body, some cellular changes and hormonal changes that come with prolonged fasting. I think you can get the majority of the benefit of that, though, with doing like a 12 to 24-hour fast. The value of a greater than 24-hour fast, I think, is mostly in the mental. And this is somewhat of my opinion, but there is some value in just like doing something difficult that you didn't think you could do, whether that's fasting or some physical challenge. But to break your mind of like, I need to be eating all the time, and realize like I'm okay. Like, I will survive if I wait on this meal, or if you go 2 or 3 days without eating. It does give your body a chance to essentially clean itself out, though, like a prolonged fast. I mean, your GI tract will mostly empty out. And you can have a lot of like autophagy. I think I like just describing it as like a cleanup. Your body's kind of like going through and just eating up stuff that it doesn't need anymore. That does happen, like even when you're eating food. Like autophagy is it's something your body's doing all the time. But there's some unique things that happen during fasting. So I don't usually recommend fasting for more than 24 hours to patients unless they have like a mental or spiritual purpose. And it needs to be very specific of like, I'm trying to do this for X amount of reasons. And it needs to be kind of planned, especially if you're doing more than 3 days. Like you really need to kind of pay attention to what you're doing. Make sure you're getting enough salt and water. You're going to get really low blood pressure and feel.
That did happen. Yeah. That was bad. Like there were a few times I went to pick up my 6-month-old and I was like
a little dizzy.
There was some black spots going on. I'm like, all right, I gotta sit down, like lemon water with salt, and after that I was actually feeling pretty good. So
I like what you said there, Brett, about the mental battle there, because that's almost why I always hated running growing up, because running for me was always a sense of like, it was like a disciplinary act of like, oh, you screwed up, oh, you were talking, go run a lap. So when I run, it's almost like innate in me my whole life. It was like running a lap was like punishment. So now when I go run, 3 miles, like I got to break that of like, hey, I enjoy this. I never really enjoy it. It's more of like a mental battle I have, like not just physically it hurts, but mentally, if I tell myself I'm going to go run 6 miles, I'm going to go run a 10K, you get to that mile marker 4 in your head and you're battling yourself of like, I'm hurting. I want to quit. This sucks. Quit. And then you're like, nope. Then you get to mile 5. Then you get to mile 6. I did do a duathlon sprint. Where, you run 2 miles, bike 12, then you run a 5K at the end of it. And I was dog tired. And that last mile, it was like, all right, just walk. And you're just battling yourself. So the mental, not just the physical, but the mental aspect of it, the mind is an amazing thing. And that internal struggle you have is the real deal. So I have one. So we kind of talked about nutrition, talked about these things. Time to spill the beans, Brett.
I knew you were going here.
Worst, in the podcast before, creatine, worst I ever done, right? Up until 3 days ago, someone may have popped a couple peptides. Tried it out. I'm trying it out. We have some high testosterone up here in Michigan. I don't know what you guys are like in Oregon.
You saw the labs, didn't you? You saw the labs.
They were good. So I don't know, what is the testosterone levels like over there in Oregon for you and for your folks, and what's worked for you when it comes to, because right now the big thing is TRT in our age group, in our area, TRT, peptides. Let's jump into some of that stuff.
Yeah. Well, on the question of like testosterone levels, for guys who are not taking TRT in that like 30, let's say 30 to 40, 45 maybe, so young, but not in their 20s. I find most guys are hovering between, with their total testosterone hovers somewhere between about 400 and maybe up to 600. But it's pretty rare that I find guys who are over 600, like less than 5% of the time. And that's really among like pretty healthy guys. Like a huge percentage of my patients are firefighters, and that kind of professions, where they're pretty physically active and engaged. So I think I commonly see guys in our age group 30 to 40 though that are under 300 even, which is obviously quite low. I think an optimal testosterone would be somewhere between 500 and 1,000 as the total testosterone, and then of course the free T. It does matter, but there's a lot of factors into what your optimal numbers should be, and it's not all the same for everyone.
So to that, and you mentioned the range, and it's like the range has changed so significantly. It used to be like 200 to 700, which from someone from an outsider's perspective, that's super wide. Now we're saying 5 to 1,000, like that. Like, what does that range really mean? I guess is kind of my question, and like why we keep moving it up. We keep, why is it just new studies are coming out? Is why the fluctuation? How big that range is?
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, the reference ranges have kind of hovered around somewhere between 300 to 900 or 1,000. That's been relatively consistent, but you'll see every lab will establish their own reference range, and they will vary, maybe 100 to up to 200 points. And some of that just has to do with how the lab determines its reference ranges. But I think from a medical professional standpoint, what would be considered unanimously low would be a total T that's under 300. And then I think unanimously high would be somewhere over 1,000 on a regular basis. So that usually makes up kind of the typical range that a medical professional is going to be thinking of, is somewhere between 300 and 1,000.
I wonder if your testosterone levels, I was just thinking, Jake, correlate to how far you hit a golf ball.
It's got to be.
Because there's not many people that hit a golf ball further than me except for Jake. My testosterone 750. Jake somehow is 850. And Jake's a strong dude. He's not overly tall. I mean, I'm taller than him. You're not going to look and be like, oh, that's a big dude. He hits a
Brett, dude,
going into the garden. You wouldn't say that guy hits a long golf ball. Me walking up and be like, oh, I'm excited to see this guy hit a ball. I bet it goes a far ways. Guys come up to me. Jake's is like a surprising, like, oh, I didn't know that was coming out of that guy.
I'm 5'9", 185, the most like
big legs,
the most average height numbers,
but
out
can
there.
Hit the piss out of a golf ball. Like, it goes a mile. So maybe we should do a study on testosterone levels and drive distance.
It's got to be.
Matt Wenner, another listener here. Yeah. I'm gonna have to get his testosterone tested. Big, strong. He's strong dude, looking dude. Doesn't hit a very far golf ball somehow. So yeah, we're gonna have to maybe do a side study on testosterone and drive.
We're gonna have to at least take distance. A couple of days to test this out from the office.
Yeah,
and play some golf.
Put that out. Yeah, we're gonna have to do
put it on our calendar.
Put a company expense, Royce. We're doing a study for the podcast. I think everyone here's another question too. So let's just say I come into your clinic and I am a 300 level, 400 level testosterone. All right, I'm 35, 40, and I need to get on testosterone. What does that commitment look like? Cost, time. Now, am I going to be on? What is it going to cost somebody a month or a year? And then how long are they going to be on it? Is that rumor true? Like, once I get on it, now I'm going to be on it for the rest of my life. I have to do this now for the next 60 years of my life. You know, like, what does that commitment look like?
Yeah, well, if you're starting on testosterone, you know, there's kind of two ways you can get it. There's a ton of clinics now that like especially big online ones you can join, like Cone or something else like that, where you can just pay a monthly fee and then be on, essentially have testosterone prescribed to you for as long as you want. Those generally cost you somewhere between $150 to $300 a month. You know, they vary a little bit, but that's pretty standard if you're just going through one of these like online clinics, and a lot of local ones. Like even mine is a monthly recurring cost. You can go through your insurance and just kind of like, let's say your primary care guy is checking it for you and it's low, and he's like, yeah, I'll start you on it. You can get insurance to cover that, but it has to be consistently under 300. And then in theory, it's free. I mean, obviously you still have your costs of having insurance and whatever.
Is there something that you should say to a physician to kind of help your cause a little bit? Like, you know, people when they need Ritalin, they're like, I can't focus and whatever. It's like, here you go. Is there something you should walk in there and be like, I can't, you know, whatever it is. Yeah. Is there something you should say?
I mean, yeah, from a medical professional's point of view, you have to have symptoms. So if you're coming to me and you're like, I feel so great, and we just happen to check your testosterone and it's like 400 or even 350, but all I hear from you is you're feeling great, I'm not going to put you on testosterone, because there needs to be some amount of like, I feel, you know, fatigued, worn out, low libido. There's got to be some symptoms. And then you just need to let them know that it's been like consistent. You know, it's not like, hey, I felt tired 3 days ago, I wonder if my T's low. It needs to be a kind of a pretty consistent pattern of at least 3 months of like, I'm doing everything I can. My sleep's fine. I'm, you know, doing a normal life, but I just feel like I don't have physical energy and all those sorts of things. And then you're still going to find some doctors will either check it or they won't. I think most people are in one of two camps of like, I don't mess with testosterone, I'm not going to check it, like, don't ask me about it. Or they're like much more open, are going to look at it for you and try to give you some feedback on it. But yeah, you can always ask, and just sometimes you just have to say like, I want this test, just order it for me.
Are you able to tell us, because there's one part of my question earlier, Brett, that you never answered. Have you tried, and if you want to say no comment, I guess you can say that, have you experienced TRT?
Yes. Yeah. When I was like 27, it was before I'd done you're at that age, most men don't do any medical care. So I hadn't done anything, but I was constantly exhausted. Like I just felt so worn out. My sleep was fine. I was like, I don't know. It was enough for me to want to go see a doctor. So I went and saw a guy, they checked a bunch of stuff, but my testosterone at that time was like 175, 180, somewhere in that range. And so, we did a whole long process. I had to have it repeated. It was still that low. Then I had to see a urologist and went through all these tests. And they're like, yeah, we don't know why, but you just have really low T for whatever reason. Your testicles just decided to quit. So they were like, you can go on testosterone or you can just keep living like you're living. I was like, well, let's do testosterone. So since that time, I have been off and on. What happens is I'll get on it for a while, and it's super effective. I feel much better. I feel normal is the better way of saying it. I don't feel like a superhuman. I don't feel terrible anymore. But I kind of just get tired of doing shots and dealing with blood work and follow up. And I'm like, you know what? I'll be fine without it. And since I started it, and I've stopped and started like, I don't know, 4 or 5 times we had kids, so I stopped it for a while so we could have kids. And then it seems like my normal levels of production vary between about 300 and 400. So it's never got as low as it did before. But it stays like just kind of chronically right on edge. And so I kind of go back and forth. I'm like, I'm kind of tired of dealing with a little bit of like dragging and low, feeling kind of lack of energy, long recovery time. So I'll get back on it. So I'm on it right now. But I kind of cycle off and on periodically.
So sorry, Jake. So I saw the after picture when we were recruiting you for this podcast. Lindy showed me a picture. I think you were holding maybe one of your children or something, stacked. Before, were you not so stacked, or have you genetically always been pretty easy to lose body fat? Because I think what are you down like? Maybe it is now or whatever, but you got down to like 6% probably, or maybe lower than that. And were you not like that before?
No, I mean it's probably like slightly more muscle and maybe a little leaner when I'm on testosterone, but I don't think it's dramatic. In fact, the picture, I don't know exactly what picture it is, but I don't think I was on.
Lindy's just showing pictures of you with your
There's
shirt
all
off
kinds
all
of
around.
pictures. We're all.
If I was, if I was holding a baby, I probably was not on it. So, I mean, a lot of that's just been my routine of like consistently exercising, and I'm pretty tall. It's easier for tall guys to look a little leaner. And then I stay, especially when I was younger, I was very diligent on my diets. I really paid attention to my macros. So kind of doing all the things that are within my control to just be as lean as I can. And then I just did absurd amounts of exercise. Like I could not keep muscle on really because I just was constantly doing, I don't know, all sorts of stuff.
So in whole, what I'm hearing is it's not just an easy button. There's a lot of work involved. It's not just, hey, I'm going to jump on TRT and I'm going to look like Superman.
Well, and that's kind of the question I wanted to ask. It's like, for the guy, you said like, hey, I don't want to go through the shots, the blood.
Sorry about that.
I don't want to go through the shots and the blood work and all that. Is it, what's the most natural way to increase test, right? If they're like, hey, is it the lifestyle? Is it just putting in the work? Or is it something, what have you found outside of TRT to kind of improve?
Peptides.
Yeah, well, and I'll say, if you're not on testosterone and your levels are, I don't know, 300-400s or 500s even, and you're considering it, and that medical person's like, let's do it, you should absolutely, before you should make sure that your lifestyle and routine is like really dialed in before, because you can fluctuate your levels of testosterone. I mean, you can double or triple it sometimes just by making sure you're sleeping well, eating properly, and exercising. But if you're going for the biggest bang for your buck, the 2 most significant things to raise testosterone naturally is going to be really resistance training, especially doing like heavy-ish lifting, like compound movement.
Hell yeah.
Hang cleans, squats, deadlifts, bench press.
All the things we love.
Pull-ups, even push-ups. Like you don't necessarily have to be doing heavy weight, but it's doing, it's load bearing on the muscles is going to stimulate testosterone. But that's not for like 1 week. You got to be consistent for, a month or 2 and to really get a good response, and then sleeps
Yeah.
So to recap that, right? There's no, and I've always said this, like fitness isn't in a bottle, right? I mean, there's some things that you can do, and we're going to get into this because I know you're chomping at the bit for peptides, but like, hey, check yourself first, right? Are you doing the right things? Are you exercising? Make a lifestyle change. Are you going eating chicken wings and pizza for lunch? Are you having beers after work? There's a time and a place, but at the end of the day, make sure you're doing all the right things, and the rest follows.
And you also got to live, right? I guess it's just figuring out, maybe it's 1 day a week, 2 days a week, but when you're doing it every day, it's going to catch you. And
well, I see a lot of people.
There's got to be a balance. I think it's all a balance, right?
Right. You see people who they're like, oh, I'm so locked in, I'm locked in, and they lose a ton of weight, but they're just not, like, this lifestyle isn't sustainable for you. Like, you're eating.
It has to become a lifestyle.
You're eating 1,200 calories a day. Like, that's not sustainable.
Yeah.
You got to figure out a way to do it for the long haul. So, again, I know you're chomping at the bit.
Well,
Peptides.
Peptides. Have you experimented with them at all? Is there certain ones that you would recommend?
Yeah. I will say, peptides is a huge category that can mean different things for different people. There's a ton of different peptides available. I would be very cautious of using stuff that's either new or that you don't really understand what it's doing. Even if your buddy's like, dude, you got to take this, I promise it's going to work. It's worth really diving into figuring out what it is, how it works. Ideally, you'd have a medical professional kind of helping you on that, but I know there's very few that do. I will say that of the peptides that's around, the few that I am in favor of and that have trialed are going to be BPC 157, and then that in combination at times with TB 500. Those are well studied, been around for a long time, reliable. They really do help accelerate your repair and recovery, especially from injuries, and they're quite effective. That, and then there's some growth hormone related peptides. There's quite a few actually, but the most tried and true is testosterone. That's actually an FDA approved drug called Egrifta, but it's also a peptide you could buy from wherever. That will cause your body to produce more growth hormone, and growth hormone is an excellent hormone for helping develop muscle, burn body fat. It actually does help improve your sleep quality. But with any peptide, it's not something you can just stay on continuously forever. There's just not enough data to support that it's safe for 20 years of use. So you just need to keep that in mind too if you're going to trial stuff.
What do those cycles look like, or how long should one stay on them and then take a break off them, or what's your take?
Yeah, it kind of depends on which one, but for the most part, the standard cycles are 3 to 6 months at a time, and then stopping for probably the same amount of time you used. But you can rotate. You can use BPC 157 for a few months and then stop and start using something different. They work very differently in the body, so it's okay to sort of stack them. But it's, I think for me, if I'm going to help a patient figure out what to use, I want them to have a very specific reason they're using it, because otherwise, if you're just taking it for I don't know, I just want to feel better, it's really hard to gauge whether that's happening. And that's not a good enough metric for me to say yeah, this is worth doing. It should be a more specific goal. I just had surgery, I want to recover faster. Or I'm dealing with this, I don't know, torn Achilles, and I want it to get better sooner. Or I'm doing, I have a big athletic competition, or I don't know, whatever it may be, to try to help improve your muscle strength, stamina.
What if it is, I want to go to Lifetime and put on a show? So what peptide would put me in the best position to be a mutant over at Lifetime?
Yeah,
that's where I'm at now. That's what I live for now, Brett. It used to be
it's all Frank.
A little bit different. Now it's the only thing I got is you walk into Lifetime. Oh, look, that guy's pretty, big. That's it. That's it.
Yeah,
that's where I'm at now.
Man, I mean, there's a lot of things that you
walk around NADA just puffed up, just jacked through your vest. How do we get there?
Yeah, well, in terms of the peptides alone, any of the growth hormone, they call them growth hormone secretagogues, but peptides that increase growth hormone are going to help you a lot. Testosterone is one I mentioned. There's CJC 1295, ipamorelin, MK67. There's a bunch of different ones. Mm-hmm. They do work a little differently than each other, but for the most part, the end result is the same. You're getting more growth hormone in the body, and that's going to help you build muscle faster. But it's not going to do it just because you took it. You have to be doing, heavy lifting to build
well, that's
muscle.
not Frank's problem. I'll say that for free.
Yeah.
So
will I feel huge strength gains if I'm bench pressing a certain amount and I'm on this for a month? Am I going to see, and I'm just doing the same workouts, am I going to see a bigger bump than I would before being on some type of?
You will see strength gains a little faster, but you'll look bigger, and you'll feel that you can tell your muscles will feel a little bit more like full, and some of that's because you'll get a little bit of water attachment to the muscle too.
Should I stay on creatine and be on CJC or any type of peptide?
Yeah, you should stay on creatine for sure.
All right.
Yeah.
What
I've taken from
go ahead.
Go ahead.
No. I think what I've taken from a lot of this, though, is that you are always in the camp of having a better lifestyle, changing lifestyles before we go into supplementation, though. Would you?
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, there's no shortcut to good diet, exercise, and sleep. And you can take all the peptides and steroids you want. And if you're not doing those things, you're still not going to look like you want to look. I mean, even a bodybuilder is a good example. I think most people get fixed on like what they're taking and all their gear and whatnot, but the majority of their effort is spent on an unbelievably strict diet and continuous progressive overload. They are so faithful to go to the gym and do progressive overload training every single day, or their routine, whatever. Maybe.
You look at one of the goats in Ronnie Coleman, and the dude can not stand up anymore. Right, for any bodybuilding fans out there, you can't squat 800 pounds for 20 years and then be okay. So but it's pretty cool when you can.
I like that you said progressive overload is the type of workouts. Have you ever followed a guy, Charles Poliquin? Does that name ring a bell to you at all? Who's a strength coach?
I'm familiar with him, but I haven't followed any of his stuff specifically.
Big progressive overload guy. It's kind of how I've based my workouts over the last 10 years or so. And a big thing of working out, to tell everybody, keeping track of your weights. Don't be the guy that goes to the gym or the female that goes to the gym and you're just like, oh, I'm going to bench press today. Have a plan, write your weights down from 1 week, go a little bit more the next week, do a little bit more the following week. And that's how you progressively overload. But you have to be able to keep track of it some way or form. You can't be like, oh, wait, what did I do last week? I think it was 225. It's like, you just screwed yourself. You're wasting. Now you're not that you're not wasting your time, but again, you're not going to, you'll go here, but you could get here by doing that the right way. And yeah.
Well, Brett, this has been, I appreciate you coming on. I think, again, this is another thing we could talk about for a while, but we want to be respectful of your time. If there's one thing, and I think we probably covered it, it's probably going to be redundant, but one piece of advice you're giving for anyone out there that's just trying to be better in their everyday life, what would that be?
Oh man, that's good. If I'm going to try to make it one thing, I would say move outside. I think the value of just being outside, being in the sun, being exposed to cold, heat, whatever is really helpful. And just movement, like whether you hike or run or swim. I mean, your body, it thrives off of being active and moving. And so that's something that I think there's mental benefits of just sort of like going on a hike, being around outside and kind of checking out of the screens and the TV and all the stuff that we kind of get sucked into. And so I think for your mental and physical benefit, just move around outside.
I love that too. Is a big thing for me right now is not just improving your lifespan, it's your health span, and being able to go on those hikes when you're 70 years old. You got grandkids, you want to go on a hike, or you want to take your grandkids to Disney World, and I don't have to be in one of those little moped things, whatever, hunting around. I can actually carry my grandchild and I can go to the next, something like that. I was listening to that Peter Attia book too, and he's like, you should be doing hang on some monkey bars. I remember I was listening to the podcast or his book while I was cutting my grass, and I'm going, and then he's like, you should be able to hang for 3 minutes. And I was just driving by my kid's play set, and I was like, shut the lawnmower off. And I hung there. I hit my watch timer, and it was 90 seconds in, and all of a sudden I'm ripping at my at my lats, and I'm like, this is terrible. There's just doing certain things. And the reason that's important too is once you get older, he says the way you're going to die after 70, 75, 80 is a trip and fall.
Bone density.
Trip and fall, you get hurt like that, and then your health just drastically takes a downhill. And you should have strong grip strength in case you are going to fall. You can grab onto that railing or something like that. And just little things like that, preparing yourself from when you're older, and you can live a better life longer. Yeah. But sorry to go on that little spiel there at the end there. This little close out.
Well, Brett, once again, buddy, thank you for joining us. We appreciate you. We appreciate your time. And I think this is something that maybe, we get our blood work done again, and we got to bring Brett back on for a little bit.
Yeah, man, give me a call. I'd be happy to go through it with you. It'd be fun.
Awesome, man. Well, thank you again, buddy.
Yeah, thank you, guys.
Brett.
Thank you for watching the most recent episode of Dealer Out of Office, sponsored by Auto Hauler Exchange.
Auto Hauler Exchange is a B2B marketplace where our customers post their shipping opportunities direct to carriers. The technology and the operations team I have behind me take care of everything else.